There's a bunch of enemies that didn't return in Pikmin 4 from the previous games in the series. A lot of these enemies may have been made redundant due to new enemies or their abilities being given to already existing enemies in the game. And today, we are going to try and implement every single last one of these enemies back into Pikmin 4, even if they are already kind of redundant in the game. Although, of course, some are literally impossible to just implement into the game, so we are going to swap some of them over a bit to make it a bit more interesting, but still make them essentially the same enemy. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Raggins, and we are going to present you guys with all these different solutions to all these enemies that didn't make it into Pikmin 4. So let's start off with enemies that didn't return from Pikmin 1. And there is in fact only 2 of them, that being Beady Longlegs and Goolix. Quite sad about Beady Longlegs. Goolix obviously doesn't really matter, we got Goolix, but I'm going to give you guys reasons on why these still could have returned, I believe. First off, Beady Longlegs. Beady is a unique boss fight compared to Baldy, despite people saying that Baldy's just better. It would also be really cool to have the alternative of a Beady Longlegs fight, as Yellows and Wings would specialize in this fight. It would also just be so nice to have a little bit of variety in the Beedies that we see throughout the game, because we just see a bunch of Baldies and that's it, apart from Disco Longlegs that one time. And I guess you can count Mana Legs.
Bullets. You see that? Oh no! Oh no!
But I really wanted to see this super iconic enemy finally return in Pikmin 4, the ultimate Pikmin game. But sadly, we have not seen him in this game. But he could have returned next to Baldy and it would have been completely fine, and added some nice variety to the Longlegs fights throughout the game. But sadly, he didn't return. It would make a lot of sense to just smack Beady in the middle of a yellow/winged Pikmin-themed cave, and that would be the final boss of it. But sadly, this did not happen in the actual game. Goolix. Goolix is a bit of a hard one, because obviously, Goolix is kind of already in the game in the form of Foolix, except I have a little idea for Goolix. Goolix wasn't really necessarily a boss in Pikmin 1, he was kind of just a very strong enemy, and I feel like he'd go down the exact same way in Pikmin 4. It's very much the type of enemy you would see guarding a new landing site, similar to the Creeping Chrysanthemum. So kind of a one-off return, just kind of shows up in, let's say, Blossom and Arcadia or something, because that's where Foolix is also based. It would be cool to see the Goolix defending a point, meaning that you can only use a swimmable Ochi or Blues to get this landing site unlocked. Swiftly moving on to the Pikmin 2 roster of enemies, we start off with Antenna Beetle. The Antenna Beetle's radar disruption is already implemented into the game with the Gildamander enemy. This enemy actually messes up your treasure radar, so you can't tell where treasures are. On top of this, in Hero's Hideaway when you first go there in the campaign, Moss actually comes over and steals your Pikmin, or at least tries to. And she does this by using a whistle. So both of the Antenna Beetle's functions are in the game, except they have been tied to different enemies. So I feel like it would be very easy for them to implement this enemy back in, but I suppose, considering that these functions have been given to new enemies, there's no reason to bring back Antenna Beetles. And I know that everyone absolutely hates Antenna Beetles, and that's why I would love to see them return. They would definitely only be showing up in caves though, most likely, just like Pikmin 2. Bulbmin, oh Bulbmin, we all love Bulbmin. Okay, here's the big one. So Bulbmin, of course, would be cave exclusive, bringing back the Bulbmin mother enemy. There isn't much reason to bring back Bulbmin, so they could incorporate a new mini rush sort of thing, which in my eyes would be basically an Ochi rush for each individual Bulborb. Now I know that's very overpowered. That's why it would obviously be notched down an extreme amount, but it'd be really cool to send an army worth of Bulbmin just at an enemy and watch them all go ding and like smack it loads. Let me know in the comments if you guys can think of any more kind of interesting charge abilities they could give to the Bulbmin if they returned. Careening Dirigibug. I'm sure you all know how much I love this enemy and how much I care for it. I wish these guys were in the game. I've mentioned in shorts, I've mentioned in live streams, I talk about these guys non-stop, but the enemy combinations that would be possible with this enemy would be absolutely insane. Imagine a Dirigibug throwing bomb rocks onto the floor for Scuttlechucks to pick up and launch at you. This would be an insane combo, and it's something that I am really sad we didn't see in Pikmin 4, especially with the return of caves. On top of this, I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it would be really cool if they added an Arctic Dirigibug, which launched ice bombs at you instead. This is an absolute no-brainer, and I'm so sad it didn't happen, considering the amount of Arctic enemies we already see in the game too.
Alright, let's do this. I got free reign. Let's go crazy. The Bumbling Snitchbug. The Bumbling Snitchbug could be extra aggressive towards your captains now that the normal Snitchbug can also pick up your captains. Or, what if this bug could just yank Ochi away? Another idea is giving a new ability where the Snitchbug can grab groups of Pikmin instead of just one due to its lanky arms. Decorated Cannon Beetle. These are a little harder to implement because of the already curving boulders that normal cannon larvas use. Because of this, they would either remain untouched from 2 or all existing curved shooters could be changed into the decorated ones. This enemy making it back could also mean the appearance of an adult decorated cannon beetle, the Gatling Groink. As my favorite enemy from Pikmin 2, seeing this guy return would be insane. The Gatling Groink would have been a perfect fit in the metallic themed caves. They could even add the stationary Groinks back, and these could be countered by wing Pikmin to make them a little more useful. I'd keep them remotely similar to their Pikmin 2 rendition because in my eyes, they're already perfect. Hairy Bulborb. This one would be pretty interesting to add. It could simply be immune to ice but doesn't have the ability to freeze their Pikmin. But if the Snow Bulborb were to return, the entire Bulborb family would be back in action. The Pileated Snagret. This Snagret could be a final overworld boss for the Blossoming Arcadia. This would have also enabled baby Pileated Snagrets to be in the game, but I'm actually very disappointed the Pileated Snagrets didn't make the cut into Pikmin 4. The Snavian family is severely underrepresented in Pikmin 4, and I wish they added a little more enemies from that family. Ravenous Whiskerpillar. These guys could have made the environment feel a lot more lively. As much as I hated these little guys, they added personality to Pikmin 2. Maybe we can make them share a similar trait as the swarming Sheargrubs and let them weigh down treasures.
The Ranging Bloyster. The Ranging Bloyster is an interesting boss, whose design has since been changed, technically. In Pikmin 3, the regular Bloyster's design actually got changed into this new form. So seeing a Ranging Bloyster would be kind of weird in this style. But since Pikmin 4 came out, the introduction of bloom-capped Bloysters has shown us that the old design technically still does exist, just in a different species. Does this imply that all Bloysters in Pikmin 2 were bloom caps? I don't know, but I would imagine if Ranging Bloyster returned, he would have the bloom cap function to him, while also having the 2 captain kind of targeting function that he has in Pikmin 2. It'd be really cool to see this boss return. It would be great to be in a tile-themed cave again, and I think it could be a really interesting fight with the new implementations of how to take out bloom-capped Bloysters. The segmented Crawbster is one of my favourite bosses, and I'm so sad he didn't return in Pikmin 4. This guy could have perhaps been found in Seafloor Resort instead of this damn Master Hop, or some sort of tile cave. This enemy's really interesting, and the return of falling rocks is a thing in this game, so he easily could have still had that function. Maybe something new too, new attacks, new stuff that falls from the sky when he bashes into a wall. I don't know. There's a lot they could have done with this, and I'm very sad it didn't return. On top of this, maybe if they didn't want to add the boss back, they could add baby or juvenile Crawbsters, or maybe some sort of subspecies of Crawbster, which is instead just an enemy instead of a whole boss. The Titan Dweevil. Now, the Titan Dweevil is the final boss of Pikmin 2. Spoilers, by the way. This guy would be very hard to implement, as you know, he's kind of a final boss. He's meant to be a one-off. But I think I've got a very cool solution to how he could be incorporated into the game. So the thing with the Titan Dweevil is that he himself is not dangerous, but the treasures he uses are. So you could give this guy anything. They could add any treasure they want to this game, and if the Titan Dweevil has it and has a way to use it as a weapon, this enemy can be infinitely unique. And obviously it wouldn't have as overpowered weapons as it did in the end of Pikmin 2. So this could easily step him down from a final boss to just a regular boss, and he could use God knows what treasures. I can't even think. But there's a lot of stuff he could do. And it would be really cool to see this implementation of the treasures actually being used by the enemies. Next up is the Ujadani. Do you guys know what the Ujadani is? The Ujadani were a secret enemy in Pikmin 2, and they are not viewable from the Wikipedia. They're not really logged at all. They're this really weird secret enemy which doesn't really make much sense. So technically they don't even need to be on this list, but I thought I'd include them anyway because I love the Ujadani. I think they're really unique. So first off, there's no way these guys would return in the first place, but if they did, they definitely could be very similar to Mittites, as in where they hide underneath treasures and moldy king caps and stuff like that, so when you break all the mushrooms or release a treasure, they will all come up from underneath, and these would be more dangerous than Mittites because they wouldn't just scare your enemies, they would in fact poison them. That also means that white Pikmin would be immune to them, so you could use white Pikmin against them if you wish. These guys would have been a really cool incorporation into the game, and I think it would have been a crazy reference that would have sent people crazy. Unmarked Spectralids. So the Unmarked Spectralids are just the old Spectralids, basically. These guys don't have the markings that the new ones do. They have the exact same functionality, except the Unmarked Spectralids do actually have a purple one, which drops Bitter Spray, which is obviously not possible in Pikmin 4. So perhaps a purple one could drop a Bomb Rock or something in this game, I don't know. But these guys could just be incorporated into the game just to add some more variety into the nature around the game. So, you know, if you come across a group of Spectralids and a Mamuta, you would see the marked Spectralids and the unmarked Spectralids kind of flying around. That would be cool. They wouldn't add anything more functionally wise to the game, which is completely fair.
Raging Longlegs. He's basically just a fat version of the Beady Longlegs, but I think these guys would fit perfect as a mini-boss in the Kingdom of Beasts, since that's where you unlock Rock Pikmin. The Raging Longlegs would be a great challenge, and you could even put him on a hard surface to make things even more difficult.
Cloaking Burrow-Nit. I don't understand the excuse for this one not being added to the game, as it is a complete different enemy to the Jousmite, except they're kind of swapped around. If Burrow-Nits were to return, it would definitely mix up the different Jousmite encounters throughout the game, and make it a little more interesting. On top of this, Rock Pikmin would be great counters for the Jousmites, as of course Rock Pikmin are immune to piercing, and that's the main attack of this creature, and you do have to attack it face on, so it would be perfect for Rock Pikmin to take out. The return of the Cloaking Burrow-Nit could also mean that we see a Flighty Burrow-Nit added, which would be super cool, just like how there's a Flighty Jousmite, and it would also just be really nice to see Rock Pikmin finally go face to face with these enemies. Literally.
Nectarous Dandefly. These guys belong in the Primordial Thicket. They just fit the vibe too well. There's not much I'd change about the Dandefly. It's your run-of-the-mill passive enemy, and although it doesn't add much to the gameplay, having it in Pikmin 4 would make the environments feel a lot more fleshed out. The Vehemoth Phosbat. He could be a boss in the Sightless Passage, but would have to get nerfed into a Pikmin 2 style boss. I think seeing him as a reoccurring hazard around the whole cave, kinda like the Water Wraith, would be pretty epic. Maybe this Phosbat could be in its adolescence form, acting as a bridge between the regular Phosbat and the Vehemoth Phosbat. Having him back in the game would mean the light bulb mechanic from Pikmin 3 would have to return too, and I'm actually fine with that. The Plasm Wraith. Seeing the Plasm Wraith return in Pikmin 4 would have been legendary. What if, just like how the Water Wraith has its own gimmick in a cave, the Plasm Wraith did something similar? The entire cave will essentially play out as a reimagination of the Formidable Oak, except it's in the format of your typical cave. And yeah, the Plasm Wraith will chase your castle like it did to Olimar back in Pikmin 3. The Quaggled Mireclops. Adding a smaller version of the Mireclops would have been so cool. As much as I'd love to see that complete monster of a boss rise from the ground, it wouldn't really fit the vibe of Pikmin 4, so I guess we're doing a baby Mireclops instead. We got baby Snagret, so why not baby Mireclops? That'd be cool. They could also be found in one of the muddy areas in the Giant's Hearth. The Swarming Sheargrub. Swarming Sheargrubs are perfect for the Primordial Thicket. These guys would fit in the area so well. On top of this, it would be absolutely chaotic to have these guys in Dandori trials or even battles. It would be great to see these little home wreckers make their way back into Pikmin 4.
Armoured Mawdad. Juvenile Armoured Mawdads would be a great addition to the roster of already cool enemies in Pikmin 4, as the Mawdad itself was pretty unlikely. Although it would be really cool to see this Mawdad in a place like, let's say, Giant's Hearth, as that's where you get the Rock Onion, and rocks specialize in this fight. In fact, they are necessary in Pikmin 3. Medusal Slurker. Jellyfloats are already in Pikmin 4, so the Medusal Slurker is a bit of a weird one. Basically functions the same as a Jellyfloat, except they have a very different appearance and also kind of different attack where they actually put their, like, tongue onto the floor and suck Pikmin up. Although the one thing that is a little different about the Medusal Slurker is that it can drop a corpse. Obviously this doesn't mean anything, but hey, it drops a corpse. And this is also an excuse for them to use a Jellyfloat-like enemy in a place where Jellyfloats don't usually chill, I guess. The Sandbelching Meerslug. There's one place which I think we all know is perfect for the Sandbelching Meerslug, that being Serene Shores, and potentially even the top of the sandcastle. I think that would be insane. Fighting the Sandbelching Meerslug on top of the sandcastle, or maybe a male Sandbelching Meerslug, or a female one, or a subspecies, or just, you know, something a little different, because repeating the Pikmin 3 bosses probably isn't the best idea for this game. Scornets! Scornets are a fan favourite and one a lot of people wish came back. And once again, this is an enemy that is perfect for the Primordial Thicket, like a lot of the enemies on this list. What I would like to see is a Scornet hive introduced, where if you whack it, maybe you have to whack it to get to a treasure or something, a bunch of Scornets charge out and attack you. This would be a really cool addition to the game, and I'd love to see it. And it would fit perfectly in the Primordial Thicket, like I said. This is also an excuse to give winged Pikmin an even better use, also on top of their onion being collected in the thicket. Shaggy Longlegs. How's this guy not in the game? Baldy Longlegs literally cannot exist without Shaggy Longlegs. But here we are today. Baldy Longlegs is very much existing without Shaggy Longlegs, somehow. In fact, even in Olimar's Piclopedia entry for the Baldy Longlegs, he says that this is a bald Shaggy Longlegs. So where are the Shaggy Longlegses? Why are all the Beedies going through a balding phase? What is happening? Jokes aside, this is basically just a slightly harder Baldy and has a cool mechanic where you have to get all the hairs off all of its legs to actually attack the head. Could have been cool to see this in night mode or just in any place where there's already existing Baldy Longlegses. It would be cool to swap some of them out for Shaggy Longlegses. For example, maybe the final mission of the night mode to make it even more difficult. Phosbats. Phosbats are one thing that I think a lot of people actually kind of wanted to return, and I think they paired perfectly with caves, and sadly they never came back. Some caves like Sightless Passage would have been a perfect place for these guys to show up. Literally, super dark cave. These enemies thrive in the dark. It would be really cool to see these guys return in this environment. I think they're a really cool enemy. They're very unique. They're basically a Bulborb if it was a bat. Let's just say that. Very weird, very interesting, very exclusive to Pikmin 3, so it's a shame they didn't return in Pikmin 4, because I think in dark caves like Sightless Passage, they would have fitted so well, you have no idea. Next to the Phosbat is the Phosbat Pod. This is just the exact same reason. This is basically just a spawner for Phosbats. So yeah, this would show up in Sightless Passage 2 with the Phosbats. These guys could also be pretty good night mode enemies, actually. It'd be really cool to see the Phosbats in night mode alongside the albino dwarf Bulborbs. Scornet Maestro. Scornet Maestro is another Pikmin 3 boss. Now, the hard thing about the Pikmin 3 bosses is that it's kind of hard to, you know, get them into the game because they were specifically made for Pikmin 3 story mode and weren't really intended to ever return, I don't think. So it is kind of difficult with some of these. But I think the Scornet Maestro could have been an overworld boss for the Primordial Thicket. I think it fits this area very well, and it would be pretty nice to see overworld bosses return. I might make a separate video on that, so watch out for the future. To avoid it being a stale fight and just being a refight from Pikmin 3, what they could do is add the male Scornet Maestro. This enemy is actually spoken about in Pikmin 3, but we never see it. It is apparently a wingless male Scornet Maestro. That's it. It would be really cool to see this guy. Would he be harmful? Would he be harmless? I don't know, but it'd be super cool to see these enemies that the games do mention but never show us yet. Sputtlefish. I love Sputtlefish. These guys are awesome. If you guys don't like Sputtlefish, what is wrong with you? These guys are amazing. I can't believe they didn't show up in Serene Shores. Serene Shores is the perfect environment for these guys, obviously. Would have just added that bit more diversity to the underwater segments of the game. Just adding more water enemies is always a good thing, and it would be super nice to see these guys chilling in the deep water, just like they did in Pikmin 3. And that actually concludes all of the enemies that didn't make it to Pikmin 4. There actually isn't a lot of them. I felt like there was a lot more enemies that didn't make it into this game, but it turns out this game definitely has the biggest roster of enemies by a long shot. Obviously, there was no way Nintendo was going to put every single enemy into the game, but I think we have proved today that it is definitely very possible for them to do that. And a massive thank you to my friend Raggins for joining me on this amazing collab. I hope you enjoyed me and him collabing, and if you want to see more from me and him, then make sure to subscribe and let me know down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also make sure to check out Raggins. He does amazing Pikmin content, and I mean like amazing. He's sadly unable to say goodbye right now, so this is going to be his goodbye on screen right now. Thank you very much, Raggins, again. And a massive shout out to all of my supporters. Gunnar DeHun, Tentacles, Zeromatic, Pylover, Mizzy Keen, Thank Mean Boy, Purge Fly Fox, Judgerin Chris, Ninja Gamer, Fernanda Eurista, Oddo, Sage of Kindness, Flamsy, Cole's Tunes, and Mystery. You guys are the best. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.